So if JP Morgan with limited resources can manipulate a market 10 times bigger than Bitcoin, it means the reason that a Fed with unlimited resources could easily manipulate the Bitcoin market. Hey, it's Alan again from OptionGenius, and today I learned something that I want to share with you. Over this past weekend, I attended virtually a conference, and it was an investment conference it was on fund. It was for people who want to have a fund, like a hedge fund or a real estate fund or a crypto fund, there's so many different types of funds. And so they put all these people together in a room, and they had speakers come and talk about the different things that they're doing and how you can do it and how you can get investors to give you money and how you can build your track record and all this kind of stuff. So currently I am thinking about doing that. And so I went there, and one of the speakers was a guy by the name of John Pennington. You can look him up, John Pennington. He's probably a billionaire, or if not, he's worth several $100 million. He recently, about a year ago, he took his company public. They were a fund. They were a real estate fund. So they were using investors to give them money, and they would go out and buy real estate and give loans and stuff like that. And they built it up pretty good, several billions of dollars of assets. And then they took the company public, and I believe he was the president or the co-founder or one of them. And then he retired. So now he has a lot of time on his hands. But he's still a very smart guy, because you don't build up a company and go public and make millions and millions of dollars if you're not a smart guy. So he took the stage and he talked about a couple of different things. One of the things he talked about was what he calls the Bitcoin cage. Now, I want to give him complete credit for this. I had never thought about this. This is his thing. I don't know if he got it from somewhere else, but he brought this and spoke it to everybody, and it was very interesting. So I'm telling you this not because we're going to be making money on it. We're not going to be selling options on Bitcoin or anything like that. But I want to also show you how other people think, and how when you're investing, you need to be looking 2 or 3 steps down the road to really understand what is going on in the market. It's not just, hey, I want to buy this stock because it's going to go up, and I want to sell puts because it's going up. Yes, that's kind of what we do, right? Simplicity wise. But long term, we have to also know what's going on. So Ray Dalio, the guy has the biggest hedge fund in the world, is another guy. He has written several books, and he's been talking a lot about the reserve currency, as the dollar is currently the reserve currency of the world, meaning that most of the trade around the world is done in dollars. So that's very, 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 very important for the United States. And if they stop being the reserve currency, the dollar stops being the reserve currency, it's going to be very negative for our economy, our country, our debts, borrowing money, all that stuff. Taxes are going to go up, all kinds of crazy stuff is going to happen. And at this point, China really wants their currency to be the reserve currency. They don't want the dollar. They don't like the dollar anymore. And Russia is trying to get everybody off the dollar as well. So it's going to be interesting the next 15, 20 years, see what happens with that. But according to John Pennington, the guy that was talking, according to him, the Fed's main mandate, their number one mandate, is to keep the dollar the reserve currency. That's what he says, is that their most important goal, their most important objective is to do that. Now, a few years ago, nobody ever heard of Bitcoin, right? But Bitcoin is billed as a currency. That's what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to be able to buy stuff with it, sell stuff with it. Right now, because of the US tax laws, it's not really a currency, right? Because you pay taxes on it every time you sell it, every time you buy something, you're paying taxes. You got to record all that stuff. That's crazy. So until they get rid of that, it's never really going to be a true currency. But still, people are using it to buy stuff with. And so it's gaining more and more traction. And it's unregulated by any government. That's the appeal to it, right? And there's no one government that can take away your Bitcoin, and they actually found ways they can, but technically you're not supposed to be able to do that. And so the federal government, obviously, they got smart people to work in there. They'd be like, well, this Bitcoin thing, it might take over as the reserve currency of the world, and they're going to replace the dollar. That's not going to be a good thing. And so the Fed is thinking, okay, so how do we stop that? How do we not allow that? So before I tell you how they did that, let me give you a little bit more background. In the 2000s, JP Morgan was manipulating the price of gold. Yes, JP Morgan, the bank, was manipulating the entire gold market. So they were keeping prices within the range that they wanted to. They were not letting it go up, not letting it go. They say, you can look this up. And they were fined by the SEC. People found out about it. They were fined about it. And most people didn't even hear about it. They were fined $1 billion because of their manipulation. And this went on for 9 years. So that's a lot of manipulation. And JP Morgan, it's a big bank, but if you compare it, the resources that they have to the Fed, it's nothing because they only have a certain amount of cash and a certain amount of market cap that they can tap into and use. The Fed can print money as much as they want. They have like unlimited supply of cash. And over the last several years, they've been printing. And I'm sure nobody knows where all that money that they printed went to. So I'm sure the Fed has, taken some of that money and done other things with it that is just a footnote somewhere. Oh yeah, $50 billion went to this program over here. Nobody knows what it is, right? And so John made the he made the inference that if JP Morgan can manipulate and control the gold market is 10 times with Bitcoin. It's way bigger than Bitcoin, maybe even greater than that. It might be more than 10 times larger than Bitcoin at this point. So if JP Morgan with limited resources can manipulate a market 10 times bigger than Bitcoin, it means the reason that a Fed with unlimited resources could easily manipulate the Bitcoin market. Make sense? You see what I'm going at here? I'm trying to connect the dots here. So what John was saying is that the Fed is manipulating the Bitcoin, and they bought up a lot of Bitcoin when it was at lower prices. And now as it gets higher and higher, they are selling the Bitcoin that they have. So they're keeping a lid on prices. Because we had a lot of people mentioning later, oh yeah, Bitcoin should be at 100,000. It should be 150,000. It should be at 200,000 because every day there's less and less Bitcoin out there. It's being mined. So it's not like there's an unlimited supply. Eventually they'll stop making it, but that supply, that the amount of mining that they're doing is becoming less and less and less. So basically most of the Bitcoin is already out there. There's a small percentage of it that needs to be mined yet, but people lose their Bitcoin all the time. People put their money in their wallet and then the guy dies and nobody knows where the Bitcoin is just gone, or it can be stolen, or it can be hacked. And there's so much Bitcoin that's being lost just because people forget their password. So the supply of Bitcoin is going down. That should be sending the prices up just by itself, but it's not. And so John is saying that the Fed is purposely keeping the price down because they don't want interest in Bitcoin. If Bitcoin prices go super sky high, everybody's going to be buying it. Everybody's going to start using it, all that stuff. They don't want that to happen. And so they're purposely keeping prices down. And what they're trying to do is most of the people who trade Bitcoin, who buy Bitcoin, they're technical analysis. Right? So they look at the charts, and if the Bitcoin chart is going up, they're going to go start buying and holding. And if the chart is going down, then they're going to leave it alone or sell. And so the Fed wants to create a chart of Bitcoin where it's slowly, lower highs, a very bearish looking pattern, so that the people avoid Bitcoin and move on to something else, invest in something else. And so Bitcoin eventually falls out of favor. Now, they can do this for the next 15, 20 years, keep a lid on Bitcoin price. It's crazy, but it's very possible. Now, is this accurate? Is this going to happen? Is the Fed really doing this? You might be thinking, whoa, conspiracy theory, ding, 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 right? Maybe that's what it is, but it makes sense. Is it doable? Yes. Is it in the favor of the Fed to do that, of the U.S. government? If not the Fed, then the U.S. government or somebody else, that wants to keep the dollar as a reserve currency? Yes, it is in their favor. And if Bitcoin becomes the world's reserve currency, whoa, big shocks all around the world, especially in the United States. So it was just eye-opening to me to even hear that, see it. It's like, wow, okay, this is some not just next level thinking. This is like 4 stories up thinking, right? This is the kind of stuff that these guys talk about, think about, and it's like investing is like playing chess, right? You don't just think 1 or 2 moves ahead. You got to think 15, 20 moves ahead. That's how the masters do it. Then the grandmasters, they think like 30 moves ahead. So that's how they become grandmasters. So this is the way people think on Wall Street, and how they, obviously there has, I didn't even know JP Morgan was manipulating gold prices. I didn't know that, but people know about it. And if that's possible, then there's a whole bunch of other things that are possible as well. They shouldn't be done, but they are being done. And if the government's doing it, then all bets are off because nobody's going to go to jail. Nobody's even going to find out about it, probably, right? So that is the Bitcoin cage. I know we didn't talk about options or trading or anything like that, but I just wanted to put it out there and be like, hey, look, there's other ways to think, and you can't just look at one thing and be like, okay, Bitcoin, yeah, it's going to go up because of XYZ. Well, there are other factors involved. So you got to look at all the offshoots as well when you make your investment thesis. So, whatever you're investing in, look at all the different angles, think about it, talk to other people that might have contrary views to what you're thinking. If you're a Bitcoin bull, then talk to people who think Bitcoin is going to zero. Warren Buffett said that. Charlie Munger says that. Why? Are these guys idiots? No, they're pretty smart, but they have reasons. So find out what those reasons are and then find out why and listen to it and keep an open mind and then hedge yourself. Always hedge yourself. So yes, I still own Bitcoin. I'm hoping it goes to 100,000, but this talk did keep me from buying more.
Oh, hell no!
So we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. He might be right. He might be totally off. But if Bitcoin doesn't go up to 100,000 over the next 10 years, then we'll know that he was right. That'd be crazy if he was. Anyway, so that's it for this episode. I'll talk to you guys soon.